Well, well, well. The old engine is out, and the older engine is there. Yeah, this one's older, but the crank isn't as wallowed out. I don't know if y'all can see that crank, but that key is twice the width it should be, and it literally rips the bell right in half on the that little keyway right there. So you can't run that. And that's the whole crank assembly. So I have figured out that the best way, this is my third time doing this, fourth actually, is it's actually harder to unbolt it from that bracket. Because see, you may notice we have this here. This is where your engine mounts, right here. Back here is where your shock's gonna mount. These are pretty much your only two major mounting points on a 150. It's actually easier to mount a 50 in my opinion, because 50s mount from the bottom. These mount from the top up here. Now do keep in mind, if you're ever doing one of these engine swaps with the used engine like me, there's a couple of things you have to watch out for. For example, these. On the other side, right here, the bushing is completely blown. It's gone. And here, you might see that the bushings on this engine here, well, that one's pretty okay. But this one's pretty cracked, which seems to be very common in a lot of the GY6 150s I've swapped. These like to blow out and these like to blow out. And what's going to happen is you're going to drive down the road and it's going to almost feel like it's sliding. Or you don't drive in a straight line, or as you're driving, like the whole thing just goes bump, 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 bump in the back. You know, like in my case, I was driving and I noticed this thing just would not drive in a straight line. So I actually looked at it, and two things are actually causing this. First of all, this rim, you can't see it now, but the whole rim moves differently adjacent to the motor. And on top of that being the splines are worn out on the actual shaft and the tire, or on the rim, sorry. On top of that, I also noticed it's very hard to brake. And that disc back there is grooved pretty bad. You can't really tell on camera, but it's grooved. It's shot. So, in other words, I might as well replace with that shady tire and rim back there. I'll drive it down to a place, take the back wheel off, have them swap the tire. This is a brand new tire, by the way. I just bought it like 5 months ago. I haven't really ridden this thing until it became a daily driver. Yeah, that's something else to watch out for, is these rims. It didn't matter what engine this was on. The rim itself wouldn't balance right ever since I took it off. If you notice your back tire is like this, check your spline and check your rear tire. That's another reason why I'm replacing this whole thing. That rim doesn't wobble. This one does. Also, the brakes, I may have mentioned this back here. Since it sits cattywampus, you might notice brake fade. And it sit in this rim wore at an odd angle because that shock mount over there blew out. Yeah. So, very careful when doing your swap. I did not know that. Typical things to watch out for when you're swapping these engines accessory-wise is your stator. We're going to roll with a different type of stator. I actually managed to wedge a 50cc stator on, and it works. Yeah, on your early model ones, it should work from my experience. Nothing bad ever happened. It started and ran just fine. I always run DC anyway. So it's really just a charging circuit I worry about, but enough yammering on that because it's raining and I want to go home. These studs, very, very careful with your studs when dropping them. Currently, we are sitting on the hodgepodge exhaust I have made. And you really just want to be careful because these studs break really, 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 really easy. And when they break, you're kind of SOL if you don't know how to drill and tap. So I'm going to hurry this along. Basically, the best way I figured out how to put one of these back in, have a buddy help you or have a jack, preferably a jack, and a ratchet strap. And, you know, get creative with it. That's the best way to explain it. It's to get creative. Because these things are heavy. They don't look that heavy, but they are heavy. In my case, I gutted the entire belt drive assembly on our thing here. So, and I took the carb off, the exhaust, all that. I made it as light as I could possibly could. And we're gonna try to He-Man it up into here by myself. Do not forget this mount when you're mounting it in. I keep it in here like this because it's a lot easier to mount. Simply put, you wanna keep this mount. I drove without this mount, and it gets interesting when you're driving. That's all I'll say. This mount actually prevents the engine from rotating forward when you accelerate. See, what would happen is the back of the scooter would literally lift, and this would actually tuck and scoot forward as I was driving over and over and over, which made things pop and bend, and all in all, it made me afraid of driving it. And I just didn't have the strength at the time to hoist that up in there. And I'm a fellow that like pulls out 4 cylinders all day long and pulls out cast iron 4 cylinders and tosses them by hand with no hoist or anything. Bad for the spine, by the way. Anyways, just simply put, with these, it's actually really easy to swap. Your most overall challenge is going to be lifting it. That's it. Another key thing to look out for is alignment on your back tire. Make sure it's aligned with your front wheels when you're done. Just 2 big old pieces of wood, straight edged, and that's about all I can really tell you could do. Really, just hook everything back up the way you took it off. I prefer taking off the entire carburetor when you swap out your old engine and then just plopping it back on your new engine. So easy. You don't have to swap the intake and the carb. Everything's getting swapped over anyway. You know what I mean? Unless you're that guy that likes to put all new parts on his engine. But here at Budget Garage, where I have no roof and it's currently raining, I don't care. I just want to drive home. So, yeah. But I will say, do be careful. Specifically, and you know, it's likely not going to happen, but specifically, just check your spline on your rear tire when you swap these, if you have to swap your rear rim. On a disc brake variant of this wheel, it's actually very easy if you have a disc brake. Whereas if you have a drum, you're in for a challenge. And the reason why I say be careful with the drum is simply because I actually had an incident where one of these wheels actually stripped out and it went cockeyed, caught the drum and locked up the whole back tire while I was going at about 30, 40 miles an hour. I didn't crash, but it sure almost high-sided me, and it made for an interesting drive. You don't want interesting drives. You do, but not gonna kill you 9,000 interesting drives. So that's about all I know to do and the things to watch out for. Um, yeah. But anyways, I'm gonna quit yammering. I'll get her thrown back in here and I guess start it up and see if the junkyard free engine. By the way, that engine back there was seized and hasn't ran in like 15 years, but it fired up and barked, so I know it'll run. It did not. It's mostly the gunk in that engine I worry about. Also, that tire, yes, is 15 years old. Do I care? A little bit, but just to get a mile down the road at like 20 miles an hour, you'll be just fine. Well, I'll do just fine. You don't do dumb stuff. It kind of sucks to throw away such a good rim, but okay. But yeah, let me put the formerly seized, perfectly running engine in and shut up, and I guess I'll post a part 2 of how well this swap went. Oh, I'm throwing stuff around here. These bolts. Best way to get them out? Oh no, an airplane. In the middle of filming. Wonderful. Anyways, best way to get these out is this method, or an impact. Plus this method. Make sure you put it on this side because it's going to be really hard to fit an impact up in there. And then you just wrench on it and this gets tossed up into that and wedges and you get your bolt out. Have a friend hold this because I just had it lay on my hand, and whereas it's not injured, my bones say otherwise. So, yeah. And that just gives you an idea of the cheap Chinese bolts they put in here. It never broke in half when I managed to pop a wheelie on this thing. Yes, I have popped a wheelie on this giant effing scooter. I don't know how, I just did. And then it made weird noises after that. And then I never did that again. But anyways, I'm gonna shut up now. Hopefully I helped you a little bit.